Today, on the third and final part of our series, Quit Judging Me, I'm going to offer you the two things that you could do today to get people to quit judging you. Hey, my name is Drew Dunbar. I have the privilege and honor of being the lead pastor of Risen Church, and I'm so glad that you're joining us here on YouTube today, and I'm excited to share this message with you. Before I get into the message, I want to tell you a little bit about some judging that I did recently that I stand by. I was picking up some friends at the airport one night a few weeks back, and on my way there, at midnight on a Wednesday, I pulled up to a spotlight and I did one of those look, don't look maneuvers. If you're familiar with this, you know, how you kind of maybe think you saw something happening in the car next to you, but you're not sure exactly, like maybe somebody's shaving in their car on their way to work, or singing full volume to Journey tunes, or whatever it might be. And in this moment, it wasn't so much what was going on inside of the car, because I couldn't see what was going on inside of the car. The windows were completely blacked out, because the vehicle that I had pulled up next to at midnight on a Wednesday in Richmond, Virginia, was a hearse. Do you think it was unfair of me to judge this as a little strange and spooky? Because if you do, then you're wrong, because it is strange and spooky. Any judgment that I sent their way, they had it coming. Now, to be fair, they didn't care too much about any judgment that I sent their way. Do you know why? Because they're driving a hearse at midnight on a Wednesday through Richmond, Virginia. The moral of this story, and the reason that I open up with this, is sometimes you have to judge people because they're asking for it. The actual moral of the story is, if you don't want people to judge you, then quit being so weird. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the moral. There's no moral. Just thought it was a funny story. I hope that you found this message series valuable and fun. We've done what we can to make it engaging and useful, and the first two messages are completely available. You can check them out in the description below. And today I want to get into Matthew chapter 7 again. I know the first 2 weeks of this we just looked at the same two verses twice. This time we're going to go a little bit further, see what Jesus says next. And so let's go to Matthew chapter 7 verse 3. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? Now, up until this point, Jesus has mostly used a "wouldn't we all be better off if we just didn't judge each other and let God be the judge" kind of attitude. That's been his position up until now. But here he gets personal. See, now he's looking right at us and telling us the biggest problem of all when it comes to judgments that we put on other people is that we are terrible at it. We are bad judgers. We can't even see clearly enough to judge someone effectively. And he illustrates this with a bit of humor. Now, granted, it's first century comedic chops, but it's still kind of funny. This is a 2x4. This is a speck of sawdust. Jesus says that judging other people when you're not God is like having a 2x4 in your eye while you point at someone else and say, "Bro, you got wood in your eye. Get yourself together." Right? It's kind of funny. And we can see clearly when other people do this. We recognize it in others. It's the main reason that we scream, "Quit judging me," at the world around us so often. We're looking around at people saying, "Quit judging me. You don't even know me. You can't even see me for who I really am." We're looking at people and saying, "Quit judging me. You can't understand what I'm going through. You don't know why I do what I do. You don't know why I parent the way I parent. You don't know why I eat the way I eat. You don't know why I look the way I do today. You don't know why I'm driving a hearse at midnight on a Wednesday through Richmond, Virginia." And Jesus suggests that we simply reverse the attitude that we apply to everybody else around us. He's saying, you don't know them either. You don't know what they are going through. And besides, you can't see anything clearly because you've got your own problems. You've got a 2x4 in your eye trying to pick out a piece of sawdust in someone else's. He continues, "How can you think of saying to your friend, 'Let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye,' when you can't see past the log in your own eye. We're terrible at judging other people, and we only damage relationships when we do. Whether that's a relationship with a complete stranger or a relationship with somebody that we care about deeply. When we judge, we don't love. When we judge, we hurt relationships, friendships. Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye. If you can see what Jesus is saying here as one cohesive idea, one sort of rant, if you will, then what is actually happening makes a little more sense. He's kind of building up a little bit. And if you think of the first thing that he says is kind of funny, and the thing that he's about to say is also kind of funny, then what happens in the middle here also fits into the rant a little bit. He says, hypocrite, first get rid of the log in your own eye. Get the 2x4 out of your eye. Then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Strong words. But aren't they the words that we're really hurling around at other people whenever we shout, quit judging me, at the world and on social media and maybe even right here on YouTube? Isn't that what we're really saying? Isn't that really what we're doing? Isn't Jesus just telling us to do what we wish others would do? Now, I told you at the start of this, I was going to offer you 2 solutions to the problem of judging in your life. If you just wish everybody would quit judging you. 2 things I think that Jesus demonstrates for us. And the first one, you're not going to love it. You know how I know you're not going to love it? Because I don't love it. But I have found it to be so true and so liberating. And here it is. Go first. You worry about the log in your own eye. You worry about the 2x4 in your own eye. And in doing so, we also release the judging of other people to God. The problem with us judging others is that we're terrible at it. Reality is much deeper than the surface, which means that some people are doing terribly in our eyes, but deep down they're actually doing really well. They're doing the best that they can, and maybe they've got a long way to go. And then on the other hand, some people appear to be doing really great, to have great intentions and to be great people, but deep down they actually have terrible intentions about everything they're doing. They're playing you, and you have no way of knowing it. And God, when he looks at a person, he sees the heart. He sees deeper than the surface. And so one of the main reasons that God tells us over and over again, don't judge, that Jesus tells us over and over again, don't judge, is you're bad at it. You only see the surface. I only see the surface. And God sees deeper than that. And there's stuff that's happening down deeper than that that's important. And then throw on top of that whenever we're looking at people, we have a 2x4 sticking out of our own eye as we try to pick out the speck in someone else's, and we realize, oh, maybe we are no good at this. You wish the world would quit judging you. You're shouting at the heavens, shouting at Facebook, shouting at YouTube, shouting at Instagram, shouting at the world all around you, quit judging me. I believe one of the first things that Jesus would suggest to us is go first. Quit judging everybody else to the best of your ability first. And that doesn't mean that everyone will quit judging you, but at least you won't be demanding something of the world all around you that you're not willing to offer in return, that you have not already done. And it's so necessary if we're going to love people, if we're going to love the world around us. Judgment and love cannot live in the same room. When you're judging your spouse, you're not loving your spouse. When you're judging your kids, you're not loving your kids. When you're judging your friends, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you're not loving them. Judgment and love can't live in the same room. When we're judging our neighbors, we're not loving our neighbors. Leave the judging to God so we can be free to love. And if you thought Jesus was being harsh before in his rant, remember, there's a lot of comedy mixed in this. Context means something. You have to have been there to really get it completely. But he's using these examples that are kind of funny. But he takes it a step further whenever he talks about our obsession with the judgments of other people. And he says this: don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. Don't throw your pearls to pigs. They will trample the pearls and then they'll turn back and attack you. In other words, and you may be surprised to hear Jesus saying something like this, they ain't worth it. Now, I'll get back to that in just a second. But just for now, he's using comedy again. He's using a bit of maybe sarcasm again, maybe a bit of an exaggeration again. But he's essentially saying we spend our lives obsessed with the thoughts and judgments and looks of people whose opinions of us do not matter. But Drew, I don't want people to think I'm a mess. I don't want them to think I'm a bad mom. I don't want people to think we're poor. I don't want people to think I'm weird. Personally, I think it's weird to worry more about what somebody who didn't die for you thinks than to worry about what Jesus thinks of you. And now, just to backtrack a little bit, I know I said the phrase, they ain't worth it, and attributed that to Jesus. Don't go crazy on me in the comments for that. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Jesus is not saying those people don't matter. He is saying their unholy opinions of you don't matter. He is saying he is not interested in their opinions of you. He's not asking them, hey, what do you think of her? Hey, what do you think of him? He's just saying your value, your worth, your beauty is sacred and it's holy and it comes from him. The judgments of other people can't take that away from you. Which brings me to my second point on this. If you just wish the world would quit judging you, quit judging me. You find yourself screaming this at the heavens, screaming it at social media, screaming it at your phone screen, at your computer screen, screaming it in traffic. Quit judging me. Quit paying attention. The second bit of advice that Jesus has for me, if I want everyone to quit judging me, is to remember that my value isn't found in their opinions of me. And we're reminded of something incredibly powerful here, that we are the gatekeepers. We decide who gets through to us and who doesn't. We decide what judgments get to have an impact on us and what judgments don't matter to us. We decide what voices we listen to and what voices we ignore. We decide what comments to dwell on and what comments to allow to go deeply into our psyche. Think about it. If someone from another country where owning livestock is a sign of wealth, owning goats is a sign of wealth, looks at you and says, why are you guys so poor? You don't even have any goats. Now, if you're in most of the United States, you might look back at that person and say, that's not how I measure success. That's not how I measure wealth. So I kind of don't care about that opinion. And then some of you in other parts of the United States might say, I do too own goats, just don't make a big thing of it. And in this, we realize we are the gatekeepers. We decide whether someone else's judgments get to impact us or not. We decide whether their opinion has value or not. And Jesus' teachings to us here, I believe, challenge us to quit caring a little bit, to quit paying so much attention. We would be a little more free even to love those people well if we actually said, oh yeah, their judgments of me don't have anything to say to my value. They don't have anything to say to what I'm worth. They don't speak to my beauty. They don't speak to who I truly am. That person doesn't know who I truly am. And whenever you do that, whenever you actually allow God to attribute your value to you, you allow Jesus to attribute your worth to you, then you are free to actually love that person who has judged you so poorly. Because you're no longer paying attention to their judgments. You're paying attention to the value that Jesus attributes to them. Jesus is saying, since you get to decide whose judgments you pay attention to and whose you ignore, pay attention to mine. And Jesus has judged you as worthy. Jesus has judged you as loved unconditionally. Jesus has judged you as unjudged in his sight if you will allow him to be your Savior. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. I hope that I was able to add some value to your day and add some life to it. I would love it if you would comment down in the comments below. I kind of don't want to have the last word on this. I'd like to have the first word and just begin a conversation where we could all grow together. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. That's so helpful to us. And then if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, subscribe. We're going to be doing this regularly, sharing messages with you regularly. And as always, I would love it if you would share it. We want the message of the goodness and grace of Jesus to go everywhere. And if a message about judgment needs to go anywhere, it is all over the internet. So let's do that together.